I don't know how much time passed after the camera hit the floor. Inside the lighthouse, time didn't move the way it should. When Emily opened her eyes at the base of the spiral staircase, the first thing she noticed wasn't the pain. It was the light, because it was still on. And this time, it wasn't rotating. It was fixed, pointed inward, as if the lighthouse had finally decided who it was watching. What happened next wasn't survival. It was observation. Emily lay there for a moment, listening. Not for footsteps, not for voices, for the building itself. The lighthouse hummed softly, a low vibration that traveled through the floor and into her chest. Each breath she took felt slightly delayed, like the air needed permission to enter her lungs. She pushed herself up. The metal steps above her were slick, damp, stained dark in places she didn't want to look at for too long. The smell in the air had changed since before. Less salt, more iron. The walls felt closer, not collapsing, closing. Every time the light completed a partial sweep, shorter than before, the space inside tightened by an inch. The lighthouse was learning how much room it needed to keep her. Emily touched the wall to steady herself. It responded, not with sound, with movement. A shallow ripple passed through the concrete, as if something beneath the surface had shifted its weight. She pulled her hand back, heart hammering. The hum deepened. She tried to remember how many stairs there were. She couldn't. Numbers slid out of her head the moment she reached for them. Time did the same. Minutes folded into each other. Seconds stretched thin and snapped. She started walking. The staircase twisted in ways it hadn't before. Steps leaned inward, railings bowed like ribs. The lighthouse no longer cared about symmetry. Halfway up, she saw something ahead. A doorway. Clean, white, new. Exit. Emily broke into a run. Cold air rushed through the frame as she threw the door open. She smelled the ocean, saw moonlight, felt wind against her face. She stepped forward and slammed into concrete. The impact knocked the breath from her lungs. She was still inside. The doorway was gone. Behind her, the hum became laughter. Not a sound, a pressure. She backed away slowly, refusing to turn her back on the space she'd just hit. The floor beneath her feet vibrated with a rhythm that didn't belong to any machine. Then she heard footsteps. Slow, careful. They weren't coming closer. They were circling. Emily pressed herself against the wall, eyes darting. The footsteps stopped. The silence that followed was worse, because in that silence, the lighthouse began to speak. Not with words, with familiarity. The air shifted, and a voice emerged, perfectly formed, calm, intimate. It carried the exact cadence of someone she loved. Emily shook her head. "No," she whispered, "that's not real." The light flickered once, then again. The voice returned, closer now, layered over itself, as if the lighthouse were testing different versions. It wasn't calling her, it was rehearsing. Emily ran.
The stairs pitched downward sharply, then flattened, then turned back on themselves. At one point, she reached a landing she recognized, same rust pattern, same dent in the railing. She had been there before. She knew she had. The realization hit her harder than fear. The lighthouse wasn't confusing her, it was looping her. She screamed, the sound tearing out of her chest. The scream didn't echo. It vanished, absorbed. The hum changed pitch, satisfied. At the top level, the lens housing waited, open, exposed, wrong. There was no bulb inside, no wires, only darkness, folded inward like something breathing underwater. The light wasn't coming from a source, it was coming from intention. Emily understood then. The lighthouse didn't guide ships, it guided people. It pulled them close, learned their shape, learned their sound, and once it finished learning, it kept them. The walls around the room began to change. Faces pressed outward, subtle at first, impressions under wet cloth. Eyes formed, mouths opened. They weren't screaming, they were mouthing words they no longer needed sound for. Emily covered her ears and slid down the wall. Her breathing became ragged. The light sharpened, focusing, pressing against her chest. Every inhale felt borrowed. Every exhale felt measured. She realized something terrible. The lighthouse didn't kill everyone quickly. It kept one alive, long enough to perfect the voice, long enough to finish the collection. Emily stood on shaking legs and stumbled toward the stairs again. The steps responded by lengthening, stretching. Each one took more effort than the last. Her muscles burned, her vision blurred. The light followed her, never touching, always close enough to feel warm. At the next landing, she saw a movement. A figure stood with its back to her, hair matted, shoulders slumped. When it turned, its face didn't finish arriving. The neck kept rotating, too smooth, too far. The mouth opened wider than bone should allow. Emily turned away, gagging. The lighthouse pulsed. It was almost done. She reached the center chamber again. The light paused, completely still, focused. Emily felt it settle on her like a hand on the crown of her head. The pressure eased, the fear softened, not gone, replaced with understanding. This wasn't punishment, it was preservation. The lighthouse didn't want her pain anymore. It wanted her calm, her voice, her breath, her shape. Emily tried to scream one last time. Nothing came out. The light surged, and somewhere inside the lighthouse, a new sound joined the hum, perfectly learned, perfectly kept.
The beam began to rotate again, slow, patient, as if searching, because the lighthouse had finished with Emily, and now it was waiting for someone else.